the meeting invites confused. But how are you doing?
I'm good. I just woke up after a long day of working at home, late night.
Yeah,
How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm actually sitting in the office at a commercial tire getting my brakes done in my car.
Oh, hello from.
So
How's it?
I was like, hey, can I borrow an office so I can have this meeting? And they're like, sure, go ahead. But luckily, my cousin's the manager here, so it kind of worked out.
Perfect.
So, all right. So, just so you know, we're recording this video meeting, and hopefully, I have your consent for that.
Yeah, you have my consent to record
Okay, perfect,
audio and video.
perfect. Sounds good. I'm excited. I've been seeing your posts around Facebook, and man, I love everything that you're doing, and everything that you post. Very concise, very detailed, and so when actually my brother introduced me to your content and what you were doing, and he's like, bro, you gotta take a look at this guy, and I was like, huh, who is he? So, anyways, let me go ahead and introduce you. So, you're a graduate of Quincy High School, class of 2011, right?
Yes, sir.
Uh, Graduate of Washington State University in 2017 with a bachelor's in foreign languages and cultures, and you minored in criminal justice. You've served in the Army National Guard 5 years and for the state of Washington, Idaho, and California. 2 years as culinary specialist, 3 years as a combat engineer. You've deployed to two different wildfires to search and rescue team in the state of California. You're currently working on your master's in Chicano Studies, Public Policy Concentration, and you're doing your thesis in homelessness in the state of or San Francisco Bay Area. And it looks like you also attended 1 year law school to pursue, but you left to pursue politics, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so it looks like you came from a low income family, Mexican immigrant family from Jalisco. That's where my family's from as well. And your parents immigrated here in the 1980s as farm workers. You've worked in the fields, cherries, apples, corn, blueberries since you were 14 years old. You've worked in immigration law, helping undocumented children and obtaining asylum. Also helping Central American women obtain domestic violence asylum. Also working with DACA renewal workshops, U.S. naturalization workshops for citizenship, and it looks like you're currently working as a paid intern in the Northwest Justice Project for farm worker justice, and um, and then also it looks like also helping with COVID-19 response for farm workers and things like that. You got a
Def-
long list of stuff, and then you're the youngest running candidate for the state of Washington for the House of Representatives. How do you feel, man? How do you feel about that?
um. Well, I feel normal. It's I've been working my whole life. I mean,
Right.
my parents started working in this country when they were 12 and 14. So
Wow.
working young in this country is in my family.
Yeah.
Actually, when I first filed for office back in May, I got a subliminal shade from my opponent saying he's 70 years old and I'm 27 years old. He said, we need somebody with real life experience to lead our district. And then what you just summarized, I summarized it back to him. Like, I have life experience. I've worked in the fields. I come from a low income immigrant family. I wasn't born in Central Washington. I was born in Central California, and
Oh,
but when I was 3 months old, I moved to Quincy.
wow.
So I've been in Quincy my whole life. I know the struggle. I know what it is to be a poor Mexican American growing up here, like a lot of us.
Yeah.
That is real life experience to me.
Yeah.
Uh, and then I have my educational experience and my military experience. I think that is a good package to offer to the constituents. But
Yes.
unfortunately, my opponent has right off the gate. he played the age card against me, but I used it as saying, "Look, I'm 27 and I've done this much, and
Right.
you are 70 years old and you're still a racist. You haven't done much."
Yeah, yeah, and we got to call it how it is. I mean, we got to call it how it is. In today's time, it's crucial that we're cutting through all the BS and all the stuff that people are trying to fluff up the media with just to get us to shut up. But we're in a different time. We're in a time where millennials like us, we're saying, hey, you know what? Maybe our parents couldn't do it, but we're gonna do it for them, and we're gonna accomplish the things that they couldn't do. So I see everything that you've done up to this point. I don't think that 70 years old to 27 has any difference, because I think everything is in the person and the mind, and what you're willing to do and what you're willing to accomplish. So at the end of the day, I don't think years in years old is important as what you're willing to do.
Yes,
So
and I also want to say that two of my biggest inspirations to run for office are Bernie Sanders. I've been following him since 2015, and also Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC. She
oh,
is
I
the
love it.
youngest House rep, I believe, and I've been keeping up with her since she started running about 3 years ago, and she's running for to be reelected. And seeing how she's a Latina and she is young and also speaks her mind, I actually saw her as a role model. So if she can do it, I mean, I can do it here in Washington as well.
Oh, of course, and you're getting a lot of support. And by the way, do you create all your content on Facebook?
Yeah, I've learned how to code to do my website. I've learned how to do graphic design and Photoshop. I've also learned how to use Adobe Premiere to do subtitles. I do have a film director from Wenatchee who's working on with us to do the campaign videos. Um, but in regards to the written content, I just do it myself.
Wow, it's literally amazing, man. Sometimes I'm like, no, he must have a whole team for this, because, like, the graphics is on point, the content that you're actually putting out and what you're speaking on is crazy, good, and I'm just like, wow, he must have a whole marketing team behind him. But now we know you're a one-man band, and with some help, you know what I mean? So that's good. That's good. We got to start somewhere, right? Grassroots.
Yeah, so I usually just Google how political ads are. I Google everything, you know. There's no excuse to not know anything since there's so many examples on the internet.
Yeah,
I usually use Venn diagrams or bar graphs or anything that can compare and contrast, because
right.
I think my opponent and I are very different. You know,
Yeah,
he votes against everything that's in the best interest of my community, but how do I express that to people in my community as quickly as possible? Like, I keep in mind we are in the worst pandemic in our generation. People are stressed. People don't have time to, read a whole essay. So I like to make concise, compare and contrast, and
right.
people have been very receptive to that.
Yeah, yeah, and you're doing a great job. So the first thing is, I'm looking at your Facebook, right? And I'm looking at all the content that you've been posting, and you take a lot of shots at your opponent, Tom Dent. Um, you know, do you just not like him in general, or you just like, hey, I don't agree with everything that you've been doing and you're still trying to do?
Yeah, it's nothing personal. I don't really know him in real life. I just know his voting record and his life story from what has been interviewed in the past 7 or 8 years. Um, he's just like Donald Trump. He votes against everything that's civil rights related. I don't hate Donald Trump either. I mean, he's a very horrible person in regards to what he does in government, and that's the
Right.
same way I view Tom Dent. I don't hate him, but I really feel that he has to go. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
so he's not somebody I would want to be a friends with, but I don't take it personally. I mean, I
yeah.
don't get offended by this type of personalities. I don't take it personally. I mean, there's so many. Why there's so many in the world? We're just so conditioned and it's so normalized to have to put up with, you know, old hateful men in this world. So
Yeah,
it's
seriously.
just
And it's not
normal. It's normal to us. It's just another person that has to go.
exactly. It's just another person that has to go. It's time for change. It's time for us to reform. It's time for us to clean up house and re-strategize and reorganize and push forward the agenda of actually helping people, not suppressing people, you know?
Exactly my mindset going forward.
Yeah. So, I mean, why the House of Representatives? Why not start maybe you know, as a city council member, a mayor, you know, things like that?
Well, I wanted to cut to the chase. I wanted to make policy that affects the state, you know, with in regards to university students. One of my biggest inspirations to run for office is to help undocumented students. That was my big introduction to politics. Was assisting DACA students at Washington State University, and I feel that you can't. The only way to help university students is at the state level. So
Right.
I'm starting off with the state representatives to represent my district. If I don't happen to win this election, I will be running for local office in the next 2 years, and here in Quincy.
Nice, nice. Okay, yeah, of course. Why, you know, deal with the little stuff when you can go straight to the big stuff? Because that's really where the problems really have effect, right?
Yes, that's
Yeah,
exactly right.
and so you know, so you were pursuing law, right? And you're like you had a change of heart. You wanted to do politics, pursue public office. Why not keep going with the law side and maybe, you know, become a successful lawyer that can also help, you know, senators and policymakers write laws?
Well, it's a long story, but I'll make it short. I started law school last summer at the University of Idaho, and some of my students said some pro genocide, pro fascism, pro Nazism comments, and I'm open. I made an open letter to the administration, and they pretty much shut me down, saying it's their First Amendment right to say these hateful things. And I was just really upset. I didn't feel safe at the school.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Um, so so I lost interest in going to law school, and I actually withdrew after the second semester back in March. And after speaking to one of my professors, who's really kind, his name is Richard. I asked him, "What can I do with my life?" You know, I had to really like think, like, how can I use this knowledge to really help my community still? And he said, "Why don't you think about running for office?" So I sat down and I investigated it, and 3 weeks later, I filed for office after
Wow.
3 weeks after leaving law school. So I don't want pity about my law school experience. I do want to return to law school after politics to be an attorney, like you said. I do want to be an immigration attorney at a different school, but I don't believe in sitting down, crossing my arms, complaining. That's not going to help the situation. So I feel that I can still continue serving my community, even though I only have 1 year of law school under my belt.
Right, right. But you know, I feel like, you know, life experience in general is enough for us to pursue anything that we want to do. You know, who's to say that, you know, for example, someone, you know, you walk into a McDonald's, right? And you know, you're getting your order from the you know, representative, and you know, you happen to be kind of frustrated with your phone and say you're trying to do something you don't know how to do, and they're like, hey, well, you know, actually, if you just do this and this will get it to work. And then, you know, most people will be like, well, what does a McDonald's employee know, right? Because
Well, I've worked at McDonald's, and I know I've worked here at the Quincy McDonald's as a cook, and
yeah,
I've worked in fast food and as a dishwasher, as a field worker. I've worked in every low income job that a Mexican can do. I've done it
yeah,
because my parents taught me to not be ashamed to work hard,
of
and
course.
and I know that there's a lot of talented people, smart people in these type of jobs. And my philosophy in life, because my mom is a janitor, I've been a janitor, and I've been disrespected by, I used to work as a janitor at Washington State University, and people just leave their trash on the table, and while you're cleaning, they don't even say how you're doing. They don't care about your day.
Yeah.
You're just another low income worker to them. But to me, I treat the janitor the same as I would treat the CEO.
Mm.
That's the type of respect, and you should be able to take into account everybody's perspective,
Right.
regardless of their position in life.
Right, right. And yeah, exactly. To my point, it's like, I think people judge a book by its cover before actually reading it, and actually getting to know that there is a lot of capable people out there. There's just in the wrong position at the time, or maybe they're still going through the process of finding themselves, right? And
Eh,
go ahead.
yes, and I agree. And another thing is, that's very important to point out is the generational inequality, the generational wealth gap. For example, if a person like us, I don't know your background story, but a person like me who was born into poverty, into an immigrant family, you know, I had to find my way to get a home plate just so I can have an at bat. Some people out here in this world that I've worked with or gone to school with were already born on third base.
Yeah.
They were born on third base. They already had the head start. And that's the thing we have to help students. Us who fought our way to the plate. We have to get other people to the plate
Right.
or help them get to first base. That's
Right.
a sports analogy, but I'm
Yeah.
a big baseball fan. But some people are born on third base, and we really have to, you know, you know, deny this whole myth of meritocracy where people think if you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you're gonna make it in life.
Yeah.
There's so many factors. That's a bunch of it's a bunch of BS. People socioeconomic um, background, their mental health, their family structure, all comes into play. And some people are born with full families and full inheritances and parents with doctorate degrees and
Right. And not
yeah,
everybody gets those opportunities. And that, I was actually just discussing this the other day where, when people refer to like, oh, well, pull yourself up from the bootstraps, and I always say, like, well, maybe if I had some boots, maybe I can pull them up. You know what I mean?
exactly.
I wasn't
I
born
like
with
that.
the boots. You know what I mean? I wasn't born with the boots. Not everybody is born with a pair of boots, right? So maybe you can say that, right? Maybe someone else can say, hey, yeah, well, pull yourself up from the bootstraps. But hey, you know what? Well, have you sat down and thought that maybe everybody else doesn't have boots like you? You know?
Yeah, and I agree. Through my Chicano studies, through my graduate work, I've actually had to analyze social, economic, and racial theory. Um, and we really dissected the whole notion of the American dream. If you work hard enough, you can make it in life.
Mm-hmm.
But there is way more to success in this country than having the will to go. And I feel that our culture and people in general criticize people for not wanting to succeed enough. But there's so many factors that go into achieving your dreams, and a lot of it has to do with money.
Yeah.
Financial status. You can want something so badly, but if you don't have the resources, you're not going to make it.
Right.
The only
Right.
reason I've made it is because I've, received so many scholarships and student loans to fund my dreams.
Yeah.
But other people do not have access to that, such as undocumented students. They only until
And
recently.
yeah, and not everybody has the ambition or the drive or the knowledge or the necessary tools or help to figure out how to get those scholarships. To find out. Everybody thinks that it's just so easy to be like, oh, well, you should be able to figure it out. But some people do need the help, and other people are capable. Like yourself, that you took the time to read up on it, to figure out what it takes. Ask your professor and be like, you know what, well, I don't like this. What do you think I could do with my life, right? And then you got a suggestion, maybe run for public office, and that's what you're doing now, right?
Yeah,
So
I've always respected the opinions of my professors. I've always had good relations with them, and most of the time their advice was really good. And I really want to give a shout out to all my professors who have helped me get here where I am. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here. You know, the
That's great.
scholarships, recommendations, networking advice, life advice.
Did you ever deal with, a professor that, probably didn't have your general interest, or maybe they were kind of, just dismissing you, or maybe discriminate you during your program and your bachelor's degree?
No, I was never discriminated. I was dismissed. Like there's classes with 300 or 400 people per classroom.
Hmm.
I have never felt discriminated, but I have felt like just a number. Like the universities are businesses. They want to make profits off of you. They want to exploit you. The schools, universities are not there to. They're not there for you. They're there for their pockets.
Yeah.
But some professors do care about you, genuinely. But a lot of the professors are also there for that reason. They're just there to get a paycheck, teach
Right.
you, go through the books, and go home.
Right.
You get that vibe, like, hey, professor, can you help me with this? And you know, part of the problem is there's 300 or 400 kids in that classroom, and also they have 5 or 6 other classes. So you're one of 3 or 4 thousand students that they deal with. You
Yeah.
know, I you know it is frustrating when you think like I'm only one of 4,000 students. They don't care about me. So that
Yeah.
it is very demotivating to just be a number to them. But
Yeah.
never discriminated, just dismissed.
And so during your upbringing, have you ever dealt with any type of racial discrimination, any type of discrimination in general?
Well, I grew up in Quincy, Washington. I don't know if you're familiar with Quincy, but
Yeah.
it's
I
about
grew up there.
90% Latino, Mexican, Central American. So I grew up being the majority. You know, we grew up in a majority Latino, Latinx, Hispanic community. I never dealt with racism here. I went to Big Bend Community College as well for 2 years before transferring to Wazoo. I didn't experience racism in Big Bend either. It wasn't until I joined the army that I started experiencing racism.
Wow.
That's when I started like connecting with people from Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, you know, and Tennessee. Uh, I think one of the most blatant racist acts I've ever experienced was when I was interacting with this soldier from Tennessee who we were pulling fire guard, and that's when you take care of the soldiers at night so that nobody goes into the barracks. And he was the guy before me. He's this guy from Tennessee who the night before had told me how his great grandfather had fought in the Civil War in favor of slavery, and that his uncle or some bullshit that he was in the KKK, a grandmaster wizard or some bullshit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa. And he said the Civil War wasn't fought for slavery; it was fought for states' rights. Anyways, so right before I went on, when we were switching, I started flipping through the pages where the fire logs are, and it was graffiti that was vandalized with a bunch of swastikas.
Wow.
And I reported it to the chain of command in the morning, and they just said it is what it is, pretty much. Um,
So was your chain of command white, I'm supposing?
yeah, the a lot of the army and the leadership is Caucasian white. There is a lot of discrimination in the army. For example, throughout my trainings, I've received microaggressions. They've called me like a Mexican in a baton, or like a go back to gardening, or like a landscaping. And well, I was in law school last year. I was crossing the road, going home, crossed my bike on a crosswalk, and some man pulled down his window and said, "Hey, you fucking wetbag, get out of the way." And,
Wow.
yeah, so that's the most racist thing I've ever experienced. But generally speaking, it's been microaggressions, stereotypical jokes. I don't take offense to them, but somebody could, like being called a gardener or a landscaper, or
Right. Right.
you
And
know,
sometimes you have
so,
to, and sometimes it seems like we just have to dismiss it because we can't do anything about it. Sometimes we have to just kind of ignore it because, we're the minority in a majority setting,
Yeah, I agree. You can't, like, another thing is mental health. If you give races your energy, they're gonna win. That's what they
Yeah,
want you to do. They want you to think about them. They want you to be bothered. Um, if you stay unbothered, they lose.
yeah, yeah,
So that's my perspective. Like, I'm not going to give them my energy. I have to focus on helping my community. I have to focus my energy on helping my family. Like,
yeah.
staying mad is not going to help me. I'd rather run for office and pass legislation that really helps the community instead of getting mad.
Exactly, exactly. We gotta take the negative and somehow bring out the positive in us and do better for everybody, right? And so, I mean,
What they really hate is to see us in positions of power and positions of change.
exactly,
That's what they don't want to see. So that's what we're gonna do.
exactly, exactly. And so, in the current climate today, we're seeing a lot of media with police brutality, police against black, people abusing their rights, shooting, things like that. What do you think of all that?
I think is really bad. I've worked with sheriffs and state patrols and local police officers in the National Guard, and I believe that there are really good people who are in the police force. Um, but when it comes to police violence against Black people in America, it's a systemic and historic issue, and it should be addressed. There is no justification for the killing of unarmed black men and Black people in America, and I believe that police departments in America have um, covered for themselves for far too long.
Yeah,
The good cops have historically gotten kicked out of the force for being whistleblowers,
right.
and I believe that we've tried different approaches to solving these inequities through reform in the law and policy, but nothing has happened in the last decade and a half. Many unarmed Black Americans have been killed by the police, and it was a tipping point with George Floyd, seeing him die for 8 minutes plus with a knee on his neck, and I think it was really, really sad and horrible. And I believe that the response from people across America was justified. It's
Yeah,
horrible, and
yeah,
enough is enough. Um,
yeah. Which is what I was
Enough
gonna.
is enough. That's what I have to say.
Yeah, yeah, of course. I mean, it's what I've been telling people. I've been telling people on my podcast, to my listeners and on Facebook and Instagram and everything. And I'm using everything to say, hey, look, you guys are focused on the wrong things. Who cares about the rioting? Who cares about the destruction of property and things like that? What you guys don't understand is that we have a group of people who have oppressed the minorities in this country, and specifically Black people, through slavery and systemic injustice, and discrimination. This was about to happen. This was bound to happen. This is a result of people being oppressed for so long, and then finally they saying, you know what, we can't do this no more. I'm tired. We can't continue through the same path and the same to get the same result. So then I'm assuming, based on what you just said, that you're a supporter of Black Lives Matter.
I am.
Yeah. And so have you gone out to any of the rallies and protests?
I've gone out to 3 Black Lives Matter marches here in Quincy, Washington. I actually organized the first one, and there was about 100 people who came out, and then
Wow.
there was 100 people who came out to the second one.
Wow.
There was about 20 people in the last one. Um, I've been meaning to go to another one in Ellensburg. They're going on date number 35 straight in
Wow.
Ellensburg, Washington, without stop. Same people posting. They're like, hashtag date 36. Here we go. No, Ellensburg is also my district, and I've been getting some really bad information. For example, there was people with Black Lives Matter posters on their windows. I don't know if you know this, but some people's houses with those posters were vandalized. They put N-word on the back of their pickup in like black spray paint. And they
Wow.
also put swastikas all over the front of their house and windows.
I didn't know that. That's
And they
crazy.
on their mailbox they put Jew. So they put N-word, Jew, swastika. I'm like, these are the people we're dealing with. Another point: people who vandalize with racist things, please do it in broad daylight. Don't be a coward. Let's see who
Right.
you are. Like square up. Like people are
Yeah.
scared. Racists are cowards. They do
Yeah.
their work at night. They vandalize my constituents' houses at night because they're scared.
Right.
People, you know, racists are too much.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, if they only had the balls to come out, you know what I mean? Maybe we can then have a conversation, you know what I mean? But they don't want to have those conversations, you know, and then there's no repercussions for you know what they do, you know. So, you know, you get vandalized, you report it, and then you get told, hey, well, sorry, there's nothing we can do.
There's a similarity between those three situations where the vandalism was done at night, the swastikas from the logbook were done at night, and the guy who called me a fucking wetback rolled down his window and then peeled off right away. None of those three racist incidents did the person show
Uh,
face,
yeah.
or want an argument. They just want to express their hatred, get away with it, and keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I actually attended the Black Lives Matter protest out here in Moses Lake. So I live in Moses Lake, and I was standing there with my sign, right, and we're getting people passing by, you know, supporters, you know, honking, right, and then there was other people rolling down their windows like, fuck you, niggers, you know, things like that, and I'm just like, what's going on, you know what I mean? And
Yeah, people are racist.
yeah, you know,
Especially in Central Washington.
there was literally, you know, and it was from young people to older men, you know what I mean? That were blatantly just showing disrespect, like, hey, you know, get off the side of the street, get a job, you know, go do something better with your life. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell are you guys talking about?
Yeah, I received that when I organized the one in Quincy, a Quincy Valley News. It's like a not a journalist site. It's more like a blog, but
Yeah,
it has like 8,000 followers, and it's mostly Quincy people. And when they shared that we were organizing the march, the first one of three in Quincy a few weeks ago, even the Latinos from the town, the Mexican Americans, were talking trash about it. They were saying, "Mejor póngase a trabajar," or "do something good with your life." I'm like, these are the kids who are not doing anything with their lives. I mean, it's not mutually exclusive. You can work a job and be somebody in life, and you know you can still take care of your community. It's not one or the other. I think that's
right.
something that we have to tackle in our own culture as well. Uh, Kids who not kids anymore, and they're like 20 to 25, and they're apathetic and they don't care about the movement, and all they care is about making bread.
Yeah,
Money isn't the end all be all of life, and we have to really tell people that you have to contribute to society at some point.
yeah, yeah,
And then being trolls about it, saying get a job, get a life, that's not helping the cause. And that's referring back to your point, people trying to troll you with go back to work. And I think
yeah,
that's very unfortunate. It's unfortunate
yeah.
people
You
have that
know,
mentality.
and it's crazy, you know, because I noticed amongst the group of people that I was in, you know, some of them were unemployed, some of them didn't have jobs, but they were out here protesting, you know, in favor of Black Lives Matter, which I found great. You know, I'm like, hey, maybe you don't have a job, maybe you're struggling, but the you know, to see someone out there still knowing that they're struggling was just, you know, heart filling to me. You know what I mean? It was just great to see that, you know?
That is correct. There's people with without the resources now due to the pandemic, and they're still out there marching.
Yeah.
So what's the excuse to everybody talking trash, right? They should be out there as well.
Yeah.
But they're not. They're keyboard warriors who like to. I'm sure you get keyboard warriors on your blog, right?
Oh
People
yeah.
people don't. My mentality: if you want to say it in real life, don't say it online.
Exactly.
If, for example, one of the people from Quincy went too hard in the comments in that post and say, "I hope they said I hope they start looting so I can start using them as target practice and shoot them."
Wow.
And the whole town came out and canceled him due to why would you shoot innocent people?
Yeah.
But you can do some research on who that was. I won't say their name.
Yeah, yeah, I'll definitely look into that. That's I didn't know that that took place. I normally every time I post something, I have a few trolls that go on there and say, hey, basically always just dismissing everything. You know what I mean? And so I always invite everybody, like, hey, come on my podcast. You want to say all these things on social media? Come on my podcast. Let's do a video, meeting. Let's record it and let's put it out for everybody to see, so people actually know exactly what you're talking about, and so they know they can put a face to the words. But then I always get, in the back end, in the private conversations that we have, they're like, no, well, I don't know, I don't feel comfortable. Oh, okay, so now you don't feel comfortable.
I think a big issue is that insecure people like to talk big game.
Yeah.
They like to you know bullying people online. You're expressing your own traumas. Like
Yeah.
you were probably bullied in your own life, and we need to take care of that. That's how I look at it. I look at people when they're bullies. I look at, like, I analyze, like, what has happened to their life. Maybe I give them too much of the benefit of the doubt, and
Yeah.
I do. I give him the benefit of the doubt and say maybe he's gone through something. He has to express it in a condescending way to try to look cool for other
Yeah.
people, and you know we have to take that into account as well.
Yeah, yeah. I always try to, play, give people the benefit of the doubt. But sometimes I realize that just people are idiots. You know what I mean? Just people are just plain ignorant, and they won't believe anything, even if it's based on fact, science, and everything else. They just won't. They'll stick to their guns, regardless if they know it's wrong. And that's just mind blowing to me. It's just like, what to believe that there's people out here like that. I'm just like, come on, man.
True. I
So
feel like that sometimes too. Mostly right now because of COVID-19, right? It's
yeah,
exposed everybody who doesn't believe in science. People who are the only people that make me feel that way are the conspiracy theorists, the ones that say that wearing a mask is gonna give you some type of disease that's worse than COVID-19, which is COVID-19 is pretty bad. It creates holes in your lungs.
yeah,
I don't know if a mask can do that, but
yeah. It's crazy. You know what I mean? It's just you have people out here, saying don't wear masks because you're gonna die. But if you don't wear the mask, you will die. You know what I mean? So it's like it's just
well,
crazy.
well, then again, they listen to a man who gives them health advice, such as don't stand near windmills because it gives you cancer.
Yeah.
Do you know who that is?
No.
Donald Trump.
I was gonna take a wild guess and say him, but I mean, he just said so many things. It's hard to keep track of anything he does say anymore.
Yeah. So when you listen to, for example, yesterday he's like, okay, CDC, the leading disease department in the United States, the leading authority. He's like, I don't like your advice. I'm going to open the schools. And people are like, oh, Donald Trump doesn't like the CDC's advice. We have to open the schools. People are such sheep when it comes to listening to Donald Trump. Donald Trump has no experience, no credibility left, if he ever had any. And people are diehard supporters of Donald Trump, and they listen to him as an authority on science, and that's what frustrates me.
Yeah.
And it trickles down the party, to my opponents and to the state GOP party. They listen to him like he's a leading scientific authority, and that is what's frustrating because hundreds of thousands of people are dead because of his lack of dealing with this in a proper way.
Yeah, yeah. It's just outright dismissal and ignorance for the severity of the case, you know. So I mean, and that leads into my next question. You know, do you think that we should open up schools in the fall? Do you really believe that we're even at a point to open up schools in the fall?
No, I actually posted about this yesterday. There's 3 million confirmed cases of coronavirus, COVID-19 in the U.S. As of today, and opening up the school as 1% of our population, one in
Yeah.
100 people in this country has COVID-19. That's pretty scary.
Yes.
Um, the move to send kids to school on behalf on the part of Secretary Betsy DeVos and President Donald Trump is a really bad move. It's not based on science or medicine. It would only kill kids and teachers. You know, in Arizona, a teacher died from summer teaching just yesterday, I believe, or this past week.
Wow.
3 teachers got COVID-19. One of them just died last night, I believe. You can look up the dates.
Yeah.
But I have a friend in Phoenix who was actually running for the school board in Phoenix, and he actually posted about, okay, you want to open up schools? A teacher just died from COVID-19. How many more teachers? And that's from like summer teaching and
Yeah.
semi-distance teaching. Imagine full blown 100% in person classes.
Yeah.
How many more kids and teachers have to die for the government to get a grasp of how wrong
To
this is?
understand, yeah, to understand
To
how
understand.
critical every decision that they make is. You know what I mean? So, do you think, given that you know, news publication from Betsy DeVos, do you think that our state governor should say, "Hey, no, 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 we're not going to open up schools. Like we're gonna keep them closed down, or we're gonna keep remote learning, or you know, what do you think the solution is?"
Oh, well, I believe that Washington will give a response. I haven't seen it yet, but the statement from uh, the the U.S. Department of Education was pretty recent. Do you recall when it was released? 1 or 2 days ago, 3 days ago?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fairly recent, and you know the thing that Donald Trump's administration has done is try to deflect from the serious issues, which is corruption at every single level of the executive branch. All his cronies are going down for corruption and treason, and
Yes.
he's being investigated still. It's an ongoing investigation, being tried for connections to Russia and different mafias and corruption regarding funding his own businesses. You know,
Hmm.
a lot of his associates, personal attorneys and ex diplomats in his cabinet are going down left and right. They're going down. They're dying like flies, and that's the main issue that he's trying to detract from. Also, he's trying to deflect from his bad response from the coronavirus. He's let 200,000 plus Americans die under his watch due to the
Yeah.
coronavirus. He's trying to get reelected at any cost. He doesn't care how many Americans die as long he doesn't get as long as he gets elected. Because here's the issue: if he doesn't get, let me bring it back. He knows that if he doesn't get reelected, he's going to be tried for his crimes as a civilian. The only reason he hasn't been tried because it was unprecedented to try a sitting president for the crimes he's been accused of.
Right.
So he knows as soon as he leaves office in January, if he does not get reelected, he's done. He's going to prison for life. So he's throwing everything he can to try to distract the people in America from his crimes. And one of the things he's recently in the past few days, he's trying to throw kids and teachers under the bus,
Yeah.
so he can distract the American people from the real issue. How is
Yeah.
Washington going to respond? I believe we're not going to listen to Donald Trump, just like we haven't listened to him for the last 4 years on his racist, transphobic, anti-immigrant policies. Washington has taken a stance. Why? Because we are a majority Democratic state, and we have common sense. We have opposed, at the Attorney General's office, Bob Ferguson has opposed and won many of the cases against Donald Trump. And I believe that trying to kill students and teachers by sending them to school during a global pandemic wouldn't be any different. And I think Washington will challenge it in the coming week.
I hope so. I hope so, because I've already put it out several times. I did a whole podcast on it, and I said, hey, you know what? I don't care what anybody says. While we're in the midst of the biggest global pandemic that we've seen in our current time, I'm not sending my kids back to school. You know, I have you know, two sons that will be going back to school in the fall. You know, and you know, one that I'm trying to, you know, possibly put in preschool. He's 3 years old, and but I'm like, you know, during this whole thing, there's no way. There's no way I'm gonna force my kid to go to school, and then force them to wear a mask, right? And then still be exposed, because we know that the mask is not protecting us 100% of the time, you know. And then for some kids who have asthma and things like that, prolonged use of the mask is even worse for them, you know. So we know that its effect is great in small amounts of time, but in long-term use, we definitely don't have any, you know, anything good. And the best way is just to stay home and isolate yourself and deal with it other ways, you know.
I agree, and also to point out that um, the only personal protective equipment that actually worked in regards to masks were the N95s, and those are
Yeah.
all being taken up for really important purposes, such as healthcare.
Yeah.
The surgical masks, the little blue ones with the strings, bandanas, there's videos out there that show that most of the particles get in anyways. So, yeah, the best method is to stay home.
Yeah, yeah, and it just defeats the purpose, you know. I mean, if we're all just trying to go out and live a normal life, and go about our days, not realizing, you know, the criticality of and or the severity of this issue, you know. And so, I mean, at home, you know, my wife, she's taking it at, you know, over the top extreme, you know. So, you know, coming home, take off my clothes, shower, you know what I mean, sanitize groceries being, you know, a pickup only instead of going into the stores. We've kind of let up a little bit on it, and now, as things have kind of settled, but the numbers are going up again, you know,
Yeah,
and skyrocketed.
and it's important to point out this is something that got me really mad in regards to my opponent. I'm sure you read it yesterday when he tried to waive the safety protections for H2A farm workers to allow for um, top bunk beds and lower bunk beds to be used together in the temporary housing. The CDC recommends 6 feet. They were only 3 feet apart, and he said, you know, these were his excuses, and he was leading the letter to the governor, and all the Republicans co-signed. But what Tom Dent said really bothered me, saying that farm workers are young and strong, so they're not going to develop complications from COVID-19. And in regards to children, they are young and strong, just like the farm workers he tried to say, they're not going to die from coronavirus. So I want to tell the people that, you know, I called them out. I'm like, the CDC and John Hopkins Medicine say, and the WHO, the World Health Organization, have come out and said any age, no pre-existing health conditions, underlying health conditions, and you still can develop COVID-19 complications. You can still die from it.
Yeah.
And my opponent, Tom Dent, straight up said, you know, fuck science. I'm going to write whatever I want to say and say,
Yeah.
you're young and strong, you're not going to die. Why? Because I want to get farm workers back in the fields.
Hmm.
Why? Because they don't care if they die. They care about the profits.
Yeah.
They care about profits and about pushing, you know, agriculture into the market.
Yeah, their agenda to benefit from it directly. You know what I mean? Because some of them, you know, were born into, you know, farm businesses. You know what I mean? Some of them run farm businesses, and so they know that they're directly impacted if these people had to go home for a time being, or if they had to reduce the force, and they don't care. All they'll do is just, hey, let's get some more Mexicans from Mexico.
Yeah,
I'm sure
exactly.
they're waiting in line.
So those are the words I used: expendable, replaceable, disposable, and those are the three words I used to refer to his response to my community's grievances. My parents were farm workers. I was a farm worker. Many of my friends were farm workers, are farm workers, and for him to say, pretty much he said it without saying it. If these Mexicans die, we'll just get some new ones from Mexico.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the horrible thing, to think of, human beings as, something that you could just toss and get something else. Like if we're some sort of disposable, utensil. You know what I mean? And it's horrible to know that we have people sitting in office, signing off on policies that directly affect us, and we don't know anything about it. We didn't have a say in it, and that's why I've been making it a point to get more involved in politics, be more involved in today's time and the current climate with everything going on, and then spreading more information instead of people listening to all the misinformation. And
Here's the issue. I agree, and a lot of the people that I've talked to from our age groups, 20 to 30, the people say, well, they only talk about two things. They only talk about one thing, and they talk about two people. They only talk about the presidency, and they talk about Biden versus Trump. But politics is so much more than the presidency. Yes, it's important.
yes,
We're going to vote on that. But there's also state and local politics. There's judicial elections, city council, state reps, state senate, governorship. Um, so I really felt disappointed when people said, I agree with the sentiment. Both Biden and Trump are really, a lesser of two evils. They're two bad candidates. I was a Bernie supporter, and I still am, but I'm gonna vote for Biden. But the thing is, people want to vote third party and protest. They want to vote for Kanye West now as a protest. They want to vote Mickey Mouse or
yeah,
libertarian.
yes,
So that's third party. It's not. It's just giving a vote to Donald Trump.
yeah,
So, but
exactly.
the issue is some people are going even harder. They're like, I'm not even going to vote at all in protest, and that's even worse. I just want to remind them that you can still vote for hundreds of other elections, and that's what's disappointing. People see the presidency and they say, I'm not going to vote at all.
Yeah,
I challenge you, Vos, to tell the people there's more than one election at stake, and state politics, as we've mentioned, farm workers and immigrants' rights and education are directly affected by the state government, which they have a say in.
good, and I will, challenge myself to get more involved, and it's what I've been trying to do. I've been trying to get other people with me to join me in doing this, in my household, trying to educate my children to understand, what a voting ballot is, why you should vote, you know what I mean, and the things that are happening around, our area, like new Supreme Court judge, new state representatives, legislators, city council members that always are putting in new city codes that are BS. You know what I mean? Like, for example, the other day I got a notice on my windshield saying, "Hey, you can't park on your sidewalk," and I'm like, "Huh? What do you mean? You're gonna get a $150 fine if you park on your sidewalk?" I'm like, "What do you mean? It's connected to my driveway." Well, then I go look up the code. Well, the code passed several years ago. I didn't hear about it, and someone passed the code saying that you can't park on the piece of the sidewalk that's directly connected to your driveway. And I'm like, "Hey, hold up. I know I pay taxes on this. This is part of my property." But that's a whole nother story, you know?
Yeah, and I do want to talk about that. City governments are very powerful when it comes to affordable housing. The housing crisis, where I studied it in San Francisco, is really bad. It's really bad in Seattle. Well, city codes issue ordinances and zoning plans for the city. For example, if you can use your um, if you can build single family homes or multifamily homes or affordable housing or commercial, that all comes down from the planning commission um, and also from the local city governments. You know,
Yeah.
city governments are important because we can help our community by allowing affordable housing to by easing zoning restrictions to allow for affordable housing and to allow builders to build multifamily housing to assist the homeless populations in
Yeah.
Washington.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
need people to run for local office as well.
Yeah, 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 exactly. And so that's why I mean that whole little scenario, you know, got me thinking like, you know what? I'm writing a petition. I'm starting a petition against the city council to try to, you know, repeal this code because it affects thousands of residents in the city of Moses Lake. You know what I mean? And we don't all have big driveways, you know what I mean? We don't all have the luxury to have a very big large driveway where we can park, you know, 4 cars. You know, some of us have a regular, you know, single family residential home where, you know, our driveway is not the biggest and it's connected directly to a, you know, technically public sidewalk, right? But that easing, that little piece that's connected directly to the driveway is actually paid for by every resident who builds in this city. And so I dug into it, right? And I found out that it is part of our property and we paid for it when we financed our homes. So, you know what I mean?
File complaint.
Exactly. And so, you know, the city either pays every resident, you know, back a portion of that sidewalk piece and pays us directly and say, hey, now we own it, or they repeal the code. You know what I mean? And so, you know, I mean, I love everything that you're doing, and it's why I wanted to bring you on here because I think that it's important for other people who are our age, you know, and our demographic to see that there's other people that look like us and have lived, you know, through our shoes and traveled this journey of life to see that it is possible to have direct effect. It is possible to make changes. It is possible to come from, you know, the lowest of the lowest and still be someone, either even though you have all these obstacles that you probably have faced in your life. And that's why I wanted to bring you on here because, you know, when I found out about you, I was like, you know what, like I love what this guy is doing. I love what you're doing, and I love the way that you know speak, the way that you're putting out your content and consistently putting it out. And you know, I want to, you know, help in any way that I can, whether it's, you know, donating financially to your campaign and getting other people to do so as well. But I want to help any way I can, whether it's marketing, you know, campaigning, whatever it is, to be able to make sure that we get the right.
Hi, I think you cut out. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Thank you so much. People can donate at www.electeduardo.com /donate. You can donate on our secure ActBlue or PayPal. Or you can send a check to Castan Eda for Central Washington, P.O. Box 476, Quincy, Washington 98848. The biggest issue with my campaign is it goes back to Facebook. Uh, so Facebook got sued due to the fake news and the Russian trolls who took over the 2016 election, and they gave out so much misinformation and disinformation um, regarding politics. And you know, the Russian trolls pretty much took over Facebook a few years ago, and then
Yeah.
Washington Attorney General Bob Ferguson, I believe, sued the heck out of Facebook, and it made it so hard for state politics to run political ads now that Facebook said we're not going to do political ads in the state of Washington anymore because we can't meet all these requirements. So pretty much, they shot me in the foot. I can't do any paid advertisement on Instagram or Facebook. So I pretty much have to depend on shares. And I get about 40 shares per post. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
But how much can we do with paid advertisement? GPS advertisement, geographic advertisement. But that's the issue. If you can help me with that and helping me spread the post, that would be appreciated, because we are not allowed, or Facebook doesn't do advertisements in our state, and that's a big disadvantage, right?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely when you're trying to get out, a Donald Trump Jr. like Tom Dent, you know what I mean? When you're trying to kick someone out like that, it's important that your message is being that's making it across to the masses, So, I mean, YouTube does advertising, I think that would be a good way for you. I mean, a lot of our demographic is on YouTube. People watch YouTube, and we can directly campaign to target people in the state of Washington for this area, through YouTube paid ads, and they're very cheap. They're fairly cheap. Another way, I don't know if you've considered Snapchat. A lot of the young kids, 15 to 35 are on Snapchat, and
I've considered Snapchat and TikTok. But do you have a TikTok?
I do have a TikTok. Yeah, I do.
Is it worth it?
It's addicting. It's very addicting, and there is a lot of kids there. And I don't know if you'll be able to target, the demographic that you're trying to go, especially for the people that are voters, right? But I think that it gives people a way to know that you're a human, you're just like us, and and you can see what we see. You know what I mean? And I think that's important when we're across these platforms. I don't think any way is a wrong way. I think any way is good publicity. It's definitely a lot to manage, but it's I think it's important. Especially when you're being censored from advertising on Facebook. And but that's all the time that I have. I really appreciate you coming on to the podcast. I look forward to maybe revisiting with you later on in your campaign when we get closer to the elections, so we can continue spreading the message, and let's stay in contact and see how we can help. Me, my brother, and anybody else that is willing to help. We'll try to spread your message as much as possible, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. And I just want to say, you can register online and you vote from home. There isn't an excuse to not vote. The deadline to register to vote in Washington is July 27 online. All you need is a driver's license or a state ID, that number, and your name and your date of birth, and you can do that in 2 minutes, and then you receive your ballot at your house. The primary is on August 4th. I'm actually running against a third-party candidate. So the top two is a top two primary. The top two go to the November 3rd general election. So I need people to vote on August 4th, on or before August 4th, so I can be top 2 of 3 to go to November 3rd. And then November 3rd, you vote again, and then we'll see what happens.
Great. Okay, so then that's what we'll do. We'll start spreading the message that August 4th is the crucial date to make sure that we get you over that threshold. And so we'll start spreading your message, sharing it, and everything. Is there anything last that you want to say before we disconnect?
I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak. This is the first interview we've done for the campaign. I do have a debate versus Tom Dent on Saturday, but it will not be televised. It will be with the League of Women Voters in Kittitas County. It will be posted on their website, League of Women Voters. It will be about 5 questions each, 2-minute videos, and then they'll put them together. So it's going to be via Zoom. So on Sunday, look for those comparisons. between Tom,
So
Ben, and I.
this is this Saturday.
Yeah, but it won't be live. It will just be chopped up.
Is there any way that it could be live?
Well, I wanted it to be, but I don't know what their reasoning was. But it's going to be um, proctored by the Daily Record, which is a city of Ellensburg's a newspaper.
Okay.
I don't like the format either. How it's not live and they're gonna chop it up, and no, I'm a little paranoid. See what happens.
Yeah. But hey, good luck. Any way that we can help you, please reach out. And I really appreciate your time once again. And keep doing it. Keep fighting the fight. For Mexicans across the nation and the world who are thinking of coming here. And anybody who's dealt with the struggle, I think they'll definitely be able to see your view.
All right, thank you so much, folks, for your time.
Hey, take care, Eduardo.
Bye.
Bye.